welcome back. We're having our first conversation this morning, and as we promised, it's all about fire safety. Paul, I think this is an opportune time to have this conversation. Of course, every time is the best time to have it, but particularly around the dry season, we are experiencing heightened wildfires over the entire country. So we have here with us Kenneth Mortiz, and he's the fire station supervisor here with us. Good morning, Mr. Mortiz. How are you doing?
Good morning, good morning. Thank you for having me. I'm alive.
Always a
Wonderful.
pleasure to have you here. Perhaps we can start the conversation with the dry season. Of course, around this time, we do see excessive wildfires taking place. What has been the observation so far from the fire station?
That's a good question. It has started from as early as February, and then it is increasing day to day. Whether it's in the AM, it's in the PM, or it's in the late PM. We have seen this slow but steady increase of what we call bushfires, whether it's from Corozal to Punta Gorda, San Pedro to Benque. It's just about all over the country, and for us it's frustrating because, well, everybody knows our resources is limited, our manpower is limited, but while we know what we are called to do, we try to do what we can with the limit that we have. Unfortunately, we would want to hope that people living in rural areas, and I keep emphasizing rural because these aren't the areas that have a nearby fire station within 2 to 3 miles. You're talking about miles. If you're anywhere out of Belize City directly, you're looking at 15 miles away from the closest fire station. If you're in the northern part of the highway, which is from Ladyville to as far as the Crooked Tree Junction, that's roughly 20 miles. And
we're not even talking the Rancho Dolores, all of those areas.
That's my point. All these River Valley areas, we have the Bainesville, the Maxboroughs, and it's when you look at the trend, it's the same area every year, consistently. Every year you have Maxborough, Japan area, 8 miles, 15 miles, Tropical Park. What are we doing as a community to help ourselves? This is the message we always try to leave with you guys. It's fire safety, and fire safety is everybody's business.
Yeah.
So where does it start?
Is there a reason why you see, or your observation is that there's a trend in only specific areas of the country? For example, you mentioned, of course, there's Rancho Dolores, and that's also an area that's filled with bush, as we call it. You know,
right.
Why is it that we're not seeing fires or more fires in those areas versus the ones that you mentioned?
What we believe is that Rancho Dolores, for example, is extremely far-fetched. Maxborough, for example, is more closer or reachable to the fire station than Rancho. So those people in these far-fetched communities, they are more cautious because they know the chance of them even making a call for an emergency is like literally, I'm not going to say unreachable, but it's like, I'm not going to waste my time.
Yeah.
And then it's like the minute we make that initial commitment, okay, we get a first fire call for Rancho, and we make that one response, they're going to be like, yeah, we got there. So they'll be keep calling. When we do our survey, indeed, and we look at the country divided into subsections, like I rightfully mentioned, these are the hotspots. How do we fix it? We would want a fire station in almost every corner, but it's not reachable at that point.
Yeah.
Even for us to venture out as far as Hattieville, that's something in the near future. Ladyville is huge, is super huge. It stems from the 6 Mile Bridge, like I said, to the Crooked Tree Junction, and it incorporates the entire River Valley. You go through the Mascal Road that brings you out to Carmelita. So our area response is so huge that we literally cannot be everywhere.
I remember last year, I swear, I felt like I saw a forest fire or a huge fire in Ladyville almost every week. So I can imagine the work that you have just in that area.
That's true. I don't know. I don't know, like, when is it going to stop? I don't know when we are going to get it right. That, my home is my home, regardless of the size, the value. This is my castle. I live where I choose to live. But while I live where I choose to live, I must make the necessary precaution that I can live with a sense of security, that if something happens, I am secured. We go to the extreme, we put burglar bars, we put 360 revolving cameras around our homes. That's for our protection. So why don't we take that extra measures and create that little fire path around the perimeter of our house that is required of us? It's not going to cost you anything financially. A little bit of manpower, a little bit of sweat, combined with some Gatorade for rehydration, and we can go about our daily day knowing that if a bushfire comes within the next 100 feet of my property, I have my 5 feet fire path, I am okay. But statistics have shown that a number of structural damages is increasing by result of forest fires.
When should residents in an area think seriously about putting up these, what do you call them? Fire paths. At what point should they seriously consider that?
As soon as you finish construction. There is no leeways. I choose to live in Japanera, Ladyville, and I notice I'm among the densely brush area. As I'm done construction, I create my fire path around my perimeter of my establishment. It saves me, and it limits my worries, like I rightfully said. If I have to leave my home and go to my daily work, it limits my worries about a forest fire evolving and then destroying my property.
Should it be more of a concern for individuals who live within a specific type of dense forest or type of landscape? Because when you're driving up on the Northern Highway, you see different landscapes, and some people might think to themselves, well, this kind of low, this sort of bush, I don't really think I need to do anything.
Take it as low as you possibly can. Whether we get those calls that, oh, my house is in trouble, there's a forest fire approaching my property, or we're receiving those calls from BL technicians stating that their lamppost is being threatened by these wildfires. Every single measure that you can think about to ensure safety around your property, do it. There isn't no limit, there isn't no max. It's just a matter of, this is as far as I want to go to ensure that my property is safe.
You can never be too careful.
Of course, you can never be.
I kind of compare it to the dangers coastal communities face during the hurricane season. Inland, mountainous forest areas face forest fires during the dry season, right? So it's just as dangerous.
Of course.
In just a bit of comparison there. Let's talk a bit about some of the damages we're seeing with these forest fires this year.
It's going to continue. We don't have a price value on it, but we've seen it destroy people's home from as little as a 15 by 20 to as massive as a 25 by 35. And it's going to get worse if we don't continue to take that safety measures and put it in place.
I want to use this opportunity to perhaps educate our viewers that don't know the ways that a forest fire can start. Naturally, people think, oh, it's the dry season, it's going to happen on its own. But there are man-made forest fires as well. Is that correct?
You're perfectly right. The probability for a fire to start from the excessive heat is a reality. However, we are our own threat to our own selves. We are negligent. Paul has a piece of property. He wants it cleared out. Vivian cuts that property, but Paul wants it cleared. So what does Vivian do? She burns that thing. And she doesn't burn it and remains vigilant. She burns it, gives her back to the damage that she's causing, and then she starts casting with her neighbor. And before you know it, the Lily fire turned into a big fiasco. Vivian panicked. She abandoned the scene. The police arrive on the scene. The neighbors rightfully tell her that Vivian started this fire. Nothing is done about it. And that trend continues because it's a terminology we call slash and burn. Slash and burn was predominantly for the farmers, but now it's us who has brought that practice into our own backyard.
Should we be doing that then?
Of course not. I mean, it's illegal, but people look at it as, I live with a Hattieville, man. Nobody know the money to me. I
Yeah.
want cut and burn. I mean, am I to say go ahead and cut and burn? No, I won't. But if you're going to cut and burn, take all the safety precautions with you. Have a bucket of water, have your hose, have something. And do not give your back to these fires. It's windy all day long. Every morning I listen to the weather news, and it gives you the probability for wildfires. If you take that seriously, then you can know, again, what safety measures to put in place. Everything you do has its consequences, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. Don't let be negligent of a garbage fire or a brush fire, you being the recipient of losing your homes from that.
So we know that persons that try to take on the slash and burn method to beat the forest fire, for the lack of a better term,
Right.
are ways that can actually add to a forest fire getting out of hand. Let's talk about the solutions then, because one of the first ones that you mentioned was having a fire path of sorts, but I remember in previous interviews with you, you also mentioned there is a great opportunity for persons to control or avoid forest fires if they keep their lawn as low as possible around this time. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, like I said, it's going to take a little bit of energy on your part. As I still believe Belize is a well-loved community, regardless of the issues neighbors have. In the event of an emergency, everybody will come out. Unless I'm spitefully downrightly not have nothing to do with you, I left you there. But I believe as a community, if we start helping each other, each one help one. This week I'll do your area, next week we'll do your area. We know that maintenance isn't within the scope of all city councils, town councils, or village councils. There may be a chairman in each community, but his resources might be limited. But I believe if we reach out to that chairman and says, Chairman, next week I want to do a lead community service, let us do what we need to do to preserve our community. Let us do what I need to do to protect my home. I want to clear my vegetation. I want to clear my perimeter. I want to have my yard as low as I possibly can. Again, you hear how much time I says fire safety. It starts with us. That's where it starts. So don't point that finger and think it's heading there. There's 4 more pointing back at you. So fire safety is key. We are working and we are continuing to work on a fire safety prevention campaign. It has worked in terms of the precaution for structural fires. I just wish that this information is taken a little bit more seriously when it comes to these open fires. I do not like to have our department choosing when we go versus when we can't go.
Yeah.
This is putting us at risk in terms of opening up ourselves for a liability down the road because we aren't always there.
That must be really tough from the fire station standpoint, knowing that you're short for human resources, probably even physical resources with the trucks, and you're in a situation where you're getting multiple calls from different locations, and you have to decide what's priority. Has that ever been a situation where you guys found yourself?
Constant. It's a constant situation, and my guys will be like, Chief, we just get 3 calls for a fire in Japan area. I'm like, I hear you, but there isn't anything I can do because I have that one truck already in the establishment miles away from where that fire is happening. And then, of course, the backlash. We called a long time, we don't want to call, my house burned down, blah, 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 blah. It's not something that is in our terms of reference, whereby we choose which fire to go to. It's just that we are so overwhelmed at work right now that we literally cannot attend all. And then the one for us that poses bigger threat are those brush fire calls that comes in after the sunset hours.
Yes.
In the daytime, we can observe all these critters that runs out of these fires, but in the night, we are practically blind. Once that fire goes out, the entire area is pitch black. I'll only feel something slither across my foot or up my trousers. I put myself at risk.
Yeah.
So those are the factors. I mean, it sounds humorous here, but those are the factors that we have to deal with out there, and it's a reality. I mean, yeah, people that say, well, you want to be a fireman. That is true. But, there's only so much that we can do.
I've seen Well, we've talked a bit about the damages to homes. What about damage to electrical infrastructure and how that affects the sometimes huge areas? Have we seen any of those this year?
Not, not as such. BL has done a great job in keeping their immediate perimeter clear. A couple of weeks ago, we did have a call for a potential threat over at the 8 Mile plant. However, because of the level of work they put into protecting their areas, that minimized the work that we had to do when we responded. So they are doing an excellent job in doing their part. Each one teach one, everybody do their thing. It should be okay. It's the minute that we decide to become neglectful and just take it that one for granted step. You know, the good old saying, every day bucket got a well, one day I drop out, right? So it's that one moment that we leave something unattended or uncleared or just take it for granted. That's when all hell breaks loose.
How much do you guys consider the wildlife component of this as well? And would you recommend that communities also establish wildlife groups? Because if I would imagine if you put greater interest behind protecting the wildlife within your community, then you'd see the importance of these forests and you'd help to battle these forest fires.
It would be a great initiative, you know. Like I said, when we respond to these calls, there's all types of wild critters running around. Whether it's the turtles, we have the possum, all those type of animals. Whether we want to intentionally kill them or just let them be, that's not on us for us to decide. So there's a lot to consider. There's a lot of factors to consider when just dealing with these brush fires. Whether it's the greens that are being destroyed, whether it's your homes that's at risk, your property, and then these critters that runs around. You know, it's bigger than big. There's something that we need to sit down at the drawing table and see what measures we can take, what measures need to be in place, and then I believe we can go from there.
The station in Belize City, what's your jurisdiction in this area?
Our jurisdiction keeps expanding.
Does it?
It keeps expanding. I think I stand to be corrected right about now. We're as far as the coastal road junction for Belize City. So once I have to take my truck station over at Dolphin Street and I send that anything over the bridge and beyond, then it leaves my backyard exposed. If there's a structural fire in Belize City and 4 houses are consumed, those people who lost their houses, they don't want to hear that we sent our truck on an emergency. We'll get that, oh, you take too long and you did it wrong, we can't. But these are the situations we get when we have to like play God, so to speak. Where do we go? How far do we go? What's the risks if we don't go?
Yeah, as it stands, how many fire trucks do we have in the Belize district?
3.
3.
2 for Belize City, 1 for Ladyville. Now, mind you, on a good day, on a good operational day, we might have 1 standby functional operational truck. And I say on a good day because my mechanics will service that truck this morning. And by 2 p.m. that truck is needed. It has some mechanical issue that just pops up. This is what we face. This is the everyday reality, what we call behind the scenes.
Is there any conversations or efforts being made to acquire other trucks or other resources to be able to spread out?
I believe on a higher level, that conversation is probably taking place. We know the importance of what we do. We know the importance of what it takes to try and cover the country, or at least the Belize district since we're here. So that's something that's been discussed with the higher-ups, and I can only hope that the discussion is fruitful. We have options. If we can acquire fire trucks, then we can look at Bowsers, but like I said, that's for another table discussion.
Yeah.
We still continue to do, regardless of the limited that we have, we still got to reach out there and serve the community.
What do you recommend someone do if a bushfire is headed their way towards their home? They don't have all the right safety measures in place, but there's clearly a threat for 1 or 2 homes. Is there anything they can do to help the situation?
They can. Get their garden hose. Get their garden hose. We've had call whereby, and this fire the bonfire, morning, So what were you doing since morning? Why wait until 4 hours later when now you realize the gap has closed between where it once started to where you're at? I mean, I'm always going to say my home is my castle, regardless of the size. If I'm at home and I'm seeing that forest fire starting and I'm seeing the wind changes whereby every so often it changes direction and comes my way, why don't I start doing what I need to do? Why wait until it's a couple of 100 feet away from my house, then I become all frantic and panic, call the fire station, give us an earful, because we've had those too. We've had those rude calls whereby they want us or they want us now. We can't be there now. We'll be there, but not now.
So you take the garden hose and you wet
Start doing
the
your preventative
surroundings of your
measures.
areas.
Start doing your preventative measures. Julie, get the machete. The fire they come. Start doing something. Anybody got a number for the chairman? Call the chairman.
Yeah.
Over in 8 miles, Dogalam. He's a good friend of mine. He's also the chairman in that area. He works well with his community. Do something.
Yeah.
Help yourself.
Yeah. I mean, while we're on the conversation of fire safety, we've touched on, of course, bushfires. Let's talk about the other fires that also takes place, excuse me, within households. That can be electrical fires, the other forms of fires as well. Let's touch on those ways that you can prevent them, and if there is a fire, how to out specific fires.
Our number one setback still continues to be fires as a result of an electrical flaw. Whether I'm stealing BL's current or I am sharing my current to you, it's an electrical overload. It puts me at risk because I'm the Mr. Goody Two Shoes. I'm going to send some current for Paul. Paul said, boss, give me a lead juice. I just want to use my fan. No. Paul start using fan, washing machine, microwave, the whole 9 yards.
Overpower.
Then every time you notice he put on for him microwave,
Your light
my light
flicks.
starts flicker. That's a telltale sign. That's telling you that Paul is using more than what he's agreed to. And even if I'm not sharing with Paul, even in my own home, the minute I put on that microwave and I see that light start flickering, that's a telltale sign that something is wrong.
So what do you do then?
Call your electrician.
Unplug the man.
In the meantime, call electrician. Hey, dude, listen to me. I notice every time I use my microwave, my light starts to flicker. What's going on? He can tell you exactly what's going on. That they tell signs that your wires need to be changed. It needs to upgrade. That's the number one thing that we are still facing in terms of fires. That's electrical. So those are the initial stage to fire prevention within your homes. You have you cook?
Yeah,
You
kitchen
love
fires.
to cook. You have the kitchen fires. It's easier said than done, but Paul seems like he'll be the one that will get frantic if his frying
Listen,
pan.
I've had a couple instances.
Oh, you did.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the huge
Close.
flame.
Yeah.
Balls,
And then
yeah.
it's his frantic movement that
Yeah.
now spreads that fire from a little frying pan to the curtain, to the window, and then Paul the outer door without a house.
And the first thing you want to do when you get a frying pan fire is throw it in the
Throw
sink
it in
and
the
put on
sink.
water.
Hold on water. Take your pot cover, put it over the pot. Remember, fire needs oxygen to breathe just like us human beings. The minute you suffocate, that fire is extinguished. But, two things. Fire extinguisher, smoke alarm. It's like a married couple that works. They save lives. Don't have a fire extinguisher if you don't know how to use it. Call the nearest fire station. Fireman, I need help how to use this. Better than that, YouTube. YouTube teaches us men everything. The smoke alarm. Do not put it nowhere close to the kitchen.
Yeah.
There's two types.
Really?
There's a smoke alarm and then there's a heat alarm.
Okay.
If you want to invest in both, that's on you. Everything is an investment.
I saw this thing online where it mentioned that baking soda is a good,
Decelerant.
I guess, to out fires. Is that true?
It works, but only in literally small capacity. You know, I
Small
mean,
fire.
I can only probably use that on my frying pan.
Yeah.
That's as far as it goes.
Does it work for electrical fires too?
It works to a certain degree, but before I go about experimenting with a box of baking soda,
Yeah, you need a bucket of that to out something.
go on, make the investment and go and buy dry
Yeah.
powder ABC extinguishers. It works wonders. ABC because it will extinguish a solid fire, electrical fire, and those cooking oil fires.
That's a fire extinguisher.
That's a fire extinguisher. Purchase it over at Fabregas, and you have other agents that sell extinguishers across the country. And once it's used, Fabregas is the only agent that does the
Certainly, I
refilling.
believe that we need to promote more of that
Of course.
in our homes. I don't think it's a cultural
course.
practice
Yeah.
Yeah.
to have fire extinguishers in your homes, in your vehicles.
In your
as
vehicles, yeah,
well.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, Mr. Mortes, as we wrap up this segment, let's use this opportunity to share some final words of wisdom with our viewers on how to protect themselves against all forms of fires, the ones that you can have in your car, in your home, and of course, the notorious bushfire.
So let's wrap up in a nutshell. Forest fires, keep your areas clear. Structural fires, invest in a fire extinguisher, invest in a smoke alarm. Emergency number to call regardless of what type of fires, 990 across the country. It will take you to your nearest fire station and then we'll be there and hopefully we can quell the excitement that is growing within you because of a fire threat in your homes. It's a piece of cake.
Not really, but definitely if you attack it as early as possible,
Of course,
it can be.
everything is in the initial stage.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much, as always, for stopping by, sharing with us this important information, especially around this time.
Thank you for having me. I look forward to being here more often.
All right. Well, we are going to take another quick break, and when we come back, we'll be talking to the Farmer of the Year. Stay with us. We'll be right back.